on 25th between Cherry and Columbia, there was the building that I think was built in the 20s called the Seattle Talmud Torah building. And it housed for many, many years an after-school Sunday program of Jewish Hebrew studies. At the same time, in the late 40s, various people worked to say, hey, what's happening around the rest of the country in terms of day school, we should have one. And Rabbi Maimon and Ben Genauer and a number of other people were instrumental in doing it. I went to kindergarten at Horace Mann, which is right across the street. But then across the street from first grade to eighth grade, I was in the first class of what's called the Seattle Hebrew Day School, which is now called Seattle Hebrew Academy. And inside the building, it was really interesting because we had the building in the morning and the early afternoon, and then the Talmud Torah came. I remember us having pickup basketball games in the gym inside there. There were the kids who were in the day school and the kids who were in the Talmud Torah, and sometimes we'd mix up, but we'd have teams and playing games there. It was an interesting connection. Outside on Cherry, there was Glazier's Groceries. I don't remember exactly what the name of it is, and Bluma's across the street. They had general items, but was Jewish connections and items. And then down the block was a white kosher market, and Brenner's Brothers moved over to there, and then Varen's Kosher Meats. And so that 3 or 4 block area was a very important part of my growing up. And I drove also for white kosher besides driving for 24th Avenue Market. And on 25th, across the south of the Talmud Torah, there was this big play field with a clubhouse and with the opportunities for kids to come and just sort of hang out and play certain games. And that was I was coming in sort of at the tail end of that, but that was a meeting place of Sephardim, of all Jews, and also people, other kids from other parts of the community as well. And it was a real, that core in my mind was a very important part of the old neighborhood. The idea of a day school in the 40s was a very not very popular idea, not very implemented very many places, because it flew in the face of the public school, the melting pot, that you want to send your kids to public school and they can become American, and that's it. Now, you want to teach them some things about Judaism? Fine, we'll do it in Talmud Torah and after school or on Sunday, 3-4 days a week. And it has a very sad history of not only not being effective with many people, but some people were negatively impressed by it, because after going to school for a whole day and having not professional educators trying to teach, it was a very stressful thing. But they had it, and it was a Seattle Talmud Torah was for the whole community. Each synagogue had their own, but this was the whole community. Then came in 47, 48, the idea of Seattle should have a day school. And the Talmud Torah didn't want to have anything to do with it organizationally, because it was like a competitor, and people didn't believe in the day school idea then, but they rented the space because they weren't using it from like 8 to 3 or 4 or something like that every day. And so I wasn't aware of the Talmud Torah itself happening, except, like I said, at the end, there's these other kids came and we were there and they were there. So we met there. And institutionally, the Seattle Talmud Torah stopped. I don't remember when. My guess is sometime in the 50s. And the Seattle Hebrew Day School left there in the 60s and went south first and then went north. And now it's in Capitol Hill. But it's totally separate institution. And it went, when I was in the first class, we went from K through 6. We graduated in 6th grade, but then they said, hey, wait a minute, let's try junior high. So I went back to school there for another year, 7th and 8th year. And then that was going to be the end, because at the time there was a 4-year high school. When I graduated, they switched from a 4-year high school to a 3-year high school. But when I graduated, it didn't make sense for us to go to Washington Junior High School for 1 year. So Garfield had students coming from non-public schools, reform schools, and private schools, and parochial schools, and there were about 30 or 40 of us in the first in the last freshman class in Garfield in 1955. And so and then it went up to ninth grade, and then it was starting to go for years into the up to grade 12, but then it split, and the Northwest Yeshiva High School was born in the 70s sometime. And the Hebrew Academy today, it goes from, I think, early childhood to grade 8.